Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. So, as I talked about last week, we at the library are super excited about the Olympics. Some of us, like myself, aren't necessarily huge sport fans at any other time of the year, but there's really just something incredibly special about the whole concept of the Olympics, coming together as a global community to compete in good faith, seeing these athletes who have worked for their entire lives at this goal. There's just something really amazing about it. And last week we celebrated the games with a couple of really phenomenal documentaries. And this week we're looking at two biopics of two really, really prominent Olympic figures from the past, both from very different countries. Both of these films are really, really fantastic. So if you get the chance, please do check them out. But if you don't have an interest in either of these, make sure you check out our streaming services anyway. There are so many amazing films, thousands and thousands of them out there. If these ones aren't your cup of tea, one of them out there will be. In any case, as always, these picks are available to you entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. So without any further ado, let's get to the biopic recs. Okay, my first pick of today is available via Canopy, and that is 1997's Steve Prefontaine biopic, Without Limits. So if you aren't already familiar, Steve Prefontaine was a massively successful and popular running athlete in the 1960s and 70s, who for a time held every single American distance running record from 2,000 to 10,000 meters, which is a little bit crazy if you think about it. His popularity was so huge that he was definitely part of the reason why the 1970s saw such a massive uptick in running as a hobby in general. He was a rock star. And this biopic, I think, does a really, really good job of sort of giving you a really good fleshed out view of who he was as an athlete. There's a lot of drama behind the scenes as far as this film goes in the scheme of Hollywood in general. So for whatever reason, Without Limits came out at almost the exact same time as another 1997 Steve Prefontaine biopic called just Prefontaine. That one starred Jared Leto, who of course is a fantastic actor, and because of that sort of like big name star quality going on, I think Without Limits definitely kind of got the fuzzy end of the lollipop. A lot of people didn't really see this one in comparison. And for me, I actually think this is a better made film. I think the cast overall is stronger, and I do like the characterization of Prefontaine in this a little bit better. I think it's a little bit more fleshed out as to who he was as an athlete. And I do think that's a huge shame, but it's really great now that we can actively seek out both versions of his life and just sort of judge for ourselves what's the better film, what's telling a more interesting or compelling story. And like I said, for me, it is Without Limits. Prefontaine is played by Billy Crudup in this particular film. I have never been a massive Billy Crudup fan, but I do think he does an exceptional job in this. Some of your basic sort of biopic things that you would do as an actor, like watch a lot of footage of that person, sort of pick up some of their characteristics, like their vocal tics, things like that. And Crudup does an exceptionally fine job of that with his performance here. It's very clear he's worked really hard to sort of get the speech pattern, the cadence of his voice, and to really kind of physically and vocally embody Prefontaine. But I think beyond that, he just does an excellent job of filling out this character that, if you do happen to be a running fan and you are familiar with Prefontaine's like records and all of that, this gives him a really human feel. And I was very, very impressed. And it gives the man's arc to his story so much more when you hear Crudup talking about the things that Prefontaine embodied about running. Like there was definitely there's so many interesting elements within this particular film that talk about different strategies. Like I'm not an athlete in any way, shape, or form, obviously. So I don't know anything about like the strategy of winning a distance running match. Like for in my head, running is like run as fast as you can until you get to a finish line. Obviously, you pace yourself with distance running, but it sort of delves into the standard practice for how you strategize that sort of pacing yourself versus what Steve Prefontaine's mentality about it was. Like while he's the character, Crudup talks about, you know, how he just wants to leave it all on the track with nothing left at the end, and he doesn't want to follow somebody else's strategy. He just wants to be the most genuine runner he can. And I don't know, there was just something really, really moving about so many scenes when he's sort of explaining what he's thinking the entire time. Now, Crudup plays opposite most often Donald Sutherland, who plays Bill Bowerman, who was Prefontaine's main coach, and they are electric together on screen. They just have this really great rapport. It just bounces, the dialogue bounces back and forth so well. You know, it just feels very organic when they have arguments and disagreements about what Pre is supposed to be doing and how he's supposed to approach, and this sort of clash of wills that never seems over the top. It definitely feels like two guys who've worked together for a while and who are just trying to lead to the same end goal, and I really, really liked that sort of feeling of familiarity between the two. It does have a little bit of romance. Monica Potter is his love interest, and Crudup and Potter have some excellent chemistry going on as well. But that is definitely not the main thrust of this film. It really is at all times all about Pre. It's about who he was as an individual, who he was as a romantic partner, who he was as, a mentee from this coach. And I don't know, it was just a really, really good biopic. One where I felt myself like getting excited, even though I know the outcome of different things, and then, of course, hopefully this isn't a spoiler alert, the tragic ending of Pre's life and how that, is led into, it's just a really, really solid biopic. So if you have any interest in American sport history, distance running, just really good acting in general, I strongly recommend Without Limits. If you find yourself enjoying this and you would like more about Prefontaine, then I definitely recommend watching the Jared Leto movie as well, just so you can sort of see stylistically the differences and sort of get the different nuances of the character and how a different actor might approach different elements of the persona. But if you're just going to watch one, Without Limits, to me, is definitely the one you should pick. Okay, my other pick for this week is also available via Canopy, and that is 2020's Lang Ping biopic, Leap Duo Guan. So if you're not already familiar, Lang Ping is a huge figure in women's volleyball, both in her home country of China and here in the US as well. So Lang Ping was a member of the Chinese Golden Era 1980s team. It's a team that won multiple world championships, but also took the gold in the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984. They beat the USA team. She later went on to coach as the head of Team USA in the 2008 Beijing Olympics. That's the Olympics where Team USA took silver. And then she went back to coaching for China. And then in the 2016 Rio Olympics, under her head coaching, they took the gold again. So she's a fascinating person, like who's clearly very, very skillful, who has made volleyball a massive part of her life. And to really see her life fleshed out, because really I just knew her name. And that's coming from someone who's not a sporting person at all. I just remember watching the 2008 Olympics that the Team USA had gotten silver in, and then watching the 2016 Olympics and seeing the Chinese team take gold. And to sort of see how she got to those different positions was really, really interesting and really, really quite moving in a lot of ways. Now, biopics always make things more grand, but at no point during watching this did I think, well, that's not real. I definitely was fascinated by certain coaching methods, especially when looking at the 1980s Chinese team. I have no idea the veracity of these coaching methods, but I definitely thought I would absolutely have not been able to take a single moment of it because it's hardcore does not even begin to describe uh coaching methods for that team, but it was like really really interesting to sort of see, especially when you think about how different countries are going to train their national athletes. Like every place is going to have a different methodology, and that is an important concept to carry with you as you watch the film, because um at a certain point, and this is I hope this isn't a spoiler, uh we get a scene where she talks about wanting to make certain coaching reforms, especially when she moves back to the coaching for the Chinese team prior to the Rio Olympics. There are a lot of really like great team building moments, like little montages. And I will say there every once in a while it feels like another montage, but it really kind of works quite well. You get this sort of sense of a more team atmosphere, how it's more than just a biopic. And I don't think that you would get that feeling of, oh, all of these different things that she's implementing are bigger than her. It's not just, I want to make this team the best I can make it. I want to make these thought processes bigger. I want this to be an ongoing thing even after I'm no longer a coach. I want it to touch all of these team members. And I think by having montage after montage, it does help that, because you get to see all of these players, and there would be too many otherwise to really get to know them. So so it does work. I just, like I said, every once in a while I'm like, oh, another one. Um, we also get some really nice callbacks to a friendship she has with a fellow coach over the years. Uh, and even though we don't see them together all that often, you absolutely understand the depth of the connection they have after having gone through so much. Um, Little tidbits that I just really enjoyed. So this film starts out in the 1980s when she's still a member of the Chinese national team, and we see her go from pretty much a rookie to, the head coach of Team USA, where there's all of this sort of emotional conflict. She is facing off against her home country, but her job is to make Team USA the best that it can possibly be. And she does that, but there's weight to that. And I think for any coach that's coaching the national athletes of another country, there is definitely going to be this feeling of, conflict. And it's the ones like her who manage to like compartmentalize enough to know, to recognize, like, this is a job, this is what I do, and this is, I owe it to these young women to be the best coach for them, because that is what I was brought here to do. And then getting to see that next spot where she goes and returns to China to coach this team and to bring this team to the epitome of everything that can possibly be. And I do think that the film does a really good job of building that arc for her. I really, really loved the acting, especially from the woman who plays Lang Ping. Gong Li plays Lang Ping when she's older. And Gong Li has long been one of my favorite Chinese actresses. She was one of the original Four Dan, who were considered some of the best and the most beautiful actresses that first era. And then she's been in so many amazing movies, and I just really liked seeing her play quite a different character from the ones that I'd seen in the past. Um, and then what I found really interesting, and I just want to make sure that I get this right. So in the 1980s segment, Lang Ping is actually played by her real life daughter, Pai Lang, whose American name is Lydia Bai. Lydia was a former Stanford Cardinal player, so she actually knows her stuff. And then the Rio team, it consists of 10 of the 12 actual Olympic gold medalists from that team. So you do get like real volleyball players in those volleyball playing scenes. They know what they're doing. The shots that we get are shots that you would have seen in the actual game. And I just think that's really exciting. Like I said before, I love watching the indoor volleyball games during the Summer Olympics. I also really enjoy beach volleyball too, but like this is one of the sports that I've followed for years every time the Olympics roll around. So it was super cool to see sort of a movie version of these events that I had witnessed in my real life. So I don't know, that's just one of those really cool things. So if you happen to be a volleyball fan, if you are an Olympic history fan, if you are interested in seeing a different nation's approach to coaching and how rigorous it might be, definitely check out Leap to Guan. It is really, really an entertaining film. It is 2 hours and 14 minutes, so it's not super short, but it's not crazy long, and it does move very quickly. I thought the music was really, the score had done a lot of service to the film. It works very well with those multiple montages that I was talking about. And then just like, again, the acting is really good from the different coaches to the different players. I think people do an excellent job when you consider that a lot of these team scenes are made up of women who were volleyball players on those particular teams. They do a really serviceable job portraying a character, because that's actually in a lot of ways harder to portray a real person, let alone yourself. So I just strongly recommend this one. This one is absolutely entertaining and a absolute must watch. Okay, so those were my two biopics for this week. If you have any recommendations you'd like to share with us, please pop those in the comments below. If you have any recommendations for future themes to cover, make sure you definitely recommend those. Always looking for help on that. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I loved putting this duo of recommendations together, and I'm definitely looking forward to next week's as well. We'll be continuing on with the Olympic theme. So again, thank you for joining me, and hopefully I will see you next week. Bye-bye.